Hello, BookTube, and here's a video that's been long waited for and highly anticipated. It's a couple reading projects I started a couple months ago, but I never really fulfilled anything yet. And this one is the Second Childhood Book Quest. And the first book I had a poll that I did 2 months ago was A Bear Called Paddington by Michael Bond, originally written in 1958. And I'd never read these before. I know they're beloved by a lot of readers, children and adults, and that won out in the poll of five. And so I read this the other day. Absolutely wonderful. I actually loved it, and it's not just written for kids. Michael Bond has a little postscript in the back here, and he says that he doesn't. He said it didn't. Bear Called Paddington didn't begin life as a book. The opening paragraph was simply an early morning doodle brought on by a certain knowledge that if I didn't put something down on the blank sheet of paper in my typewriter, nobody else would. However, it caught my fancy, so I wrote a second paragraph, then a third, until by the end of the day I had completed a whole story. And he says that the source of the inspiration was a toy bear sitting on his mantelpiece of his one-room flat in London's Portobello Market. And he had bought it in desperation the previous Christmas Eve as a stocking filler for his wife. And he called it Paddington because I had always liked the sound of it, and names are important, particularly if you are a bear. And so he started writing the story, and he's gone on to write 15 in total, as far as I can tell. And but he says he doesn't talk. He didn't write it specifically as a talking down to children, so adults could like it as well. And I thoroughly loved it. It was like I was reading it, and I go, "Oh, this is interesting." And then I got to like the what is it? The one, two, three, fourth page, where the Browns who take Paddington in, and they name him Paddington because he's found it at Paddington Station. And he's telling Paddington is telling that he's stowed away on a ship from Peru, darkest Peru, and then the last four words of this paragraph sealed it for me that I knew this would be a wonderful book. And Paddington says, "Yes," said the bear. "I emigrated, you know." A sad expression came into his eyes. "I used to live with my Aunt Lucy in Peru, but she had to go into a home for retired bears." A home for retired bears. That did it. I loved it after that. And it doesn't really, and there's nice little spot illustrations in here as well, throughout. And it's basically Paddington gets into mix-ups. The first thing is that, Mr. Brown is taking him for some tea, a cup of tea, and gets him a jelly donut. And Paddington gets the cream or the jelly all over himself, just a complete mess. He always is getting in a mess, and he all he had there was a little suitcase that had still a jar that's almost empty of marmalade. He loves marmalade, and the Browns say that they will give him marmalade for breakfast every morning. But he's got an old hat too, an old floppy hat that has some holes in that was his uncle's, and it's very, very dear to him, and it's supposedly good luck as well, and it's saved him on many occasions, he says. And he could talk, and the Browns don't seem to be surprised. They get into a taxi cab. Nobody seems to be surprised. Like, they don't even bat an eye that there's a bear walking around with a hat and a suitcase. Later, with a coat, as you see here, and he talks, and nobody seems to bat an eye for it. They just think that he's mischievous, and they go into the underground, and he knocks one person down that falls down the escalator, and then he stops the escalator in mid movement, so a whole bunch of other people fall down. Like he's causing all these chaos bits, and I thoroughly loved it. It was such a quick read. The other night I just sort of figured, well, I'll read the first chapter, and I couldn't believe it. It only took me 6 minutes or whatever to read the chapter. So I wound up, before I went to bed, in less than a little over half an hour, I was half done the book. But I was getting very tired, so I figured, well, I'll leave it to the morning. So that was yesterday morning. Wednesday morning that I finished it. I love it, and I definitely want to read more. And if you do, if anybody wants to give me this pleasure of reading the rest, there is a nice box set that Amazon has of all 15. That's a really good price, and it's in my wish list. And my wish list is linked down below in my description. So if anybody wants to give me more pleasure with Paddington, then you can do that as a Christmas gift, and I will thank you for many times, and I will eventually get through all the 15 because I love it. Anyway, that was my first foray into reading the second childhood book quest. And the reason why this came about, if anybody's remembered, or if you don't, or if you've haven't come in to my channel until recently, there was a discussion going around about children between the ages of 5 and 8 that they don't read anymore. They don't have books in their home. There was an article, I think it was in The Guardian. So there was quite a few booktubers were making this, and I sort of realized that when I was that age, I never really read. I never read children's books, and I sort of thought, why not do it now? I've read a few things since then, but I thought maybe do a concerted effort for it. And so there was books. Either I was given some money by many of you subscribers to buy a specific book, as well as suggested just put it towards the fund for the second childhood book quest. And this was the first one from 2 months ago, the poll. The second in line is Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls. And that'll be the next one I read. I'm not sure exactly when. This one's a bit longer. It's almost 300 pages, but 280 pages. I wanted to keep these fairly short. But this one looked really, really good, so I chose that one, and it seems to be a popular one as well. It was sort of a close second to Paddington, so that's fine. But it says the age is 9 to 14, so it's a bit beyond the 5 to 8, but occasionally I'm not going to gripe too much about that. It looks like it was originally written, if I can find a date here, in 1961. Oh, the other thing is, too, these books had to have been published prior to, say, 1974 or 74 before, because that would have been the age that I would hit after 9, or say 75 even, or even 76. Like it's like it has to be sort of, that has to be the cutoff part, and it has to be books that I would have read if I did read books when I was a child. So I've got 4. Well, there's 4 others with this, but this will be the next one, Where the Red Fern Grows. So hopefully I can get this done in January. I'm hoping to do 1 book a month, and if they're short, I should be able to do that. So yeah, it started off fabulously with a bear called Paddington. I love it. I love it, and I want to read more. So yeah, thank you very much for donating for me to or to transferring money for me to do this. because they're not normally books that I would buy myself on my limited budget. And the idea is that I will eventually sort of try to donate them to somewhere that could appreciate them, or maybe a little center or something like that for children. Not the library, because I think they would get rid of it, because a lot of this stuff may not fit in with the modern sensibilities. So, but Paddington, I'll be keeping. Because I want to reread that for sure. But if I get if somebody is very kind to get me the box set, then I'll get rid of this copy, and all the rest. If I really like it and I want to read it again, then I'll keep them. But generally, they'll be passed on to a good home. Let's put it that way. And if I can find somebody. I don't know anybody with children about that age, but I might have some friends who know somebody. So that's what's going to happen to these books in the end after I've read them. So thank you, BookTub. Thank you, BookTube. And Merry Christmas to everybody. I'll be back. I've got other videos to make, and I'll be doing a Friday reads definitely tomorrow for this week, and I might do one on Christmas Eve. I'll see. But anyway, take care, BookTube. I hope your holidays are going well if you've started them already. Bye for now.